Before Rome, before Julius Caesar, even before the first bricks of the Colosseum were ever imagined, there was an empire in Europe so advanced, so wealthy, and so mysterious, that the Romans themselves copied their ideas, their symbols of power, and even their kings. And yet today, 99% of the world can't even name them. Welcome to the story of the Etruscans, the European empire older than Rome, and almost forgotten. Before we dive in, hit the like button, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and of course, subscribe if you love hidden history from around the world. Because this is wild. Long before Italy became Italy, central Italy was home to a mysterious civilization the Greeks called Tyrannoi, and the Romans called Etrusae. Their homeland, Etruria, a region stretching across modern-day Tuscany, Umbria, and Lazio. The time, around 900 BCE. Centuries before Rome grew from a swampy village into a republic. Who were the Etruscans? That is still one of history's biggest puzzles. Were they survivors of a lost Aegean kingdom? Seafarers from the eastern Mediterranean? Or one of the earliest, deepest-rooted cultures of Europe itself? Even today, scholars argue. But one thing is clear. They weren't Romans. The Romans became them. Temples, arches, gladiators, togas, sewer systems, religious symbols. Rome inherited them from the Etruscans. Imagine that. The greatest empire in European history was built on top of a civilization we barely talk about. So how did this forgotten kingdom rise to power? Number 1. Geography. Power in the hills. Etruria was rich in natural resources. Iron ore, copper, silver, fertile farmland, and access to the Mediterranean. In an age where resources meant destiny, the Etruscans were blessed. Number 2. Trade. The Mediterranean respected them before Rome did. Etruscan merchants sailed everywhere: Greece, Phoenicia, North Africa, even France and Spain. They weren't just traders. They were trendsetters. They brought exotic goods into Italy long before Rome could even afford sandals. Greek pottery, Phoenician jewelry, wine amphoras, all flowing through Etruscan ports. Number 3. Cities that look like they belong in a forgotten civilization. The Etruscans didn't build villages. They built city-states: Tarquinia, Cerveteri, Veii, Volcae, and more. Each had fortified walls, advanced architecture, complex drainage systems, public squares, religious centers. Rome at this time, a swamp, filled with huts and sheep. Number 4. A society obsessed with knowledge and ritual. Etruscans believed the universe spoke in signs, lightning patterns, animal livers, bird flight. To understand these signs, they built an entire intellectual class called haruspices, elite priests who studied divine messages. Rome would later adopt all of this. And then, there is the wealth. Oh, the wealth. Etruscan tombs are overflowing with gold, artwork, instruments, pottery, weapons, like time capsules of a lost world. But their true rise came from something even bigger. Number 5. Technology. Metal they turned into power. Etruscans were master metalworkers, especially with iron. They made stronger weapons, superior tools, more durable armor. These weren't tribal warriors. They were engineers of war. And with this metal kingdom, they shaped central Italy, and eventually became kings over a small rising city called Rome. Around the 7th to 6th century BCE, the Etruscans reached their golden age, a time when their influence stretched from the Po Valley in the north to the Bay of Naples in the south. 1. The arts, a culture full of life, no apologies. Unlike the more reserved Greeks, the Etruscans celebrated music, dance, elaborate feasts, brightly decorated temples, terracotta sculptures full of emotion. Their art shows something rare in ancient Europe. Women and men dining together, laughing together, participating equally in society. To the Greeks, this was shocking. To the Romans, it was unfamiliar. To us today, it feels modern. 2. The sea kings of the western Mediterranean. Their fleets dominated the Tyrrhenian Sea. Even the powerful Greeks feared Etruscan pirates, or, depending on who wrote the history, Etruscan naval heroes defending their routes. Their ships were fast, advanced, and well-armored. For a moment, They were the maritime superpower of Western Europe. 3. Religion. Mysterious, structured, almost cosmic. Etruscan religion wasn't simple ritual. It was a scientific study of fate. They believed every lightning strike had a meaning. Every bird pattern was a prophecy. Every natural event was a coded message. Rome later absorbed these beliefs so deeply that they became standard political tools. 4. Architecture. They built Rome before Rome built itself. Let this sink in. The Roman arch. Etruscan. The Roman sewer system. Etruscan engineering. Roman royal symbols. The purple robe, the ivory throne, the golden crown. All Etruscan. Even Rome's early kings were Etruscan. This is the part of history that textbooks whisper, but never shout. Rome was shaped by a civilization it would later erase. And in this golden age, the Etruscans stood as one of the most advanced societies in Europe. But no empire stays at its peak forever, because soon, enemies would appear, and mysteries would deepen, and the forgotten empire would begin to unravel. The Etruscans were powerful. They were wealthy. They influenced everything around them. But there was something the Greeks feared, something the Romans whispered about, and something modern historians still struggle to explain. The Etruscans were mysterious. Not mysterious like we don't know anything. Mysterious like we know enough to be fascinated, but not enough to understand. 1. Their language, Europe's uncracked code. Etruscan doesn't look like Latin. It doesn't sound like Greek. It isn't Indo-European at all. It's an isolated language, a linguistic orphan. We can read the letters, but the meanings? Only fragments. Clues. Names. Formulas. Ritual phrases. Imagine an entire civilization speaking a language that modern scholars still can't fully translate. A whole worldview trapped behind a door we still can't open. And that mystery would become a problem when conflict arrived. 2. A new rival appears, Rome. Rome was no longer a swamp. Thanks to Etruscan kings, it had walls, drainage, temples, and a political system ready for expansion. But the student didn't stay obedient for long. As the Etruscans thrived, Rome was growing, hungry, ambitious, aggressive, and conflict was inevitable. 3. The battle for the Italian peninsula. To the north, the Celts pressed downward. To the south, Greek colonies pushed upward. And in the center, Rome began throwing punches. The Etruscans were surrounded. Their cities fought individually. They never united under one single king or empire system. And that was their weakness. 4. A war that changed everything. Veii versus Rome. The wealthy Etruscan city of Veii sat only 10 miles from Rome. Richer than Rome. Older than Rome. Stronger than Rome. Rome couldn't tolerate that. A brutal war began. 10 years long. A siege unlike anything Italy had seen. And in 396 BCE, Rome breached the walls. Veii fell. And the Etruscan world began to fracture. It wasn't just a military defeat. It was psychological. Rome had learned how to beat its teacher. 5. The mysteries that still haunt the Etruscans. Even today, questions remain. Where exactly did they come from? How did their language evolve? Why did they bury their dead like rulers of an unknown kingdom? What secret rituals took place in their temples? Why did they seem so confident that fate itself could be read, like a book? These questions kept ancient writers fascinated, and keep us fascinated today. But conflict doesn't wait for mysteries to be solved. Because soon, the forgotten empire would face its greatest crisis. The collapse of the Etruscans wasn't a single event. It was a slow, painful unraveling, a civilization dying inch by inch. Number 1. Internal division, city against city. Unlike Rome, the Etruscans were not one united nation. They were 12 powerful city-states, each with its own rulers, armies, and ambitions. When danger came, they met in a sacred council called the Fanum Voltumni. But they rarely agreed on anything. Imagine 12 captains fighting a storm in 12 different directions. That was Etruria. Number 2. External pressure, enemies everywhere. The Greeks attacked them at sea. The Celts pushed through their northern borders. Rome crushed city after city. The Etruscans were being squeezed, and their resources were draining. Number 3. The rise of Rome. The student becomes the conqueror. Rome wasn't just expanding. It was evolving. It built a stronger army, a tighter political system, alliances with Latin neighbors, a network of conquered cities. And one by one, Etruscan strongholds fell. Tarquinia, Cerveteri, Volcae, Volsinii. Each defeat chipped away at the memory of a once mighty civilization. Number 4. The last spark. A slave revolt like a movie scene. In the 3rd century BCE, the city of Volsinii faced a shocking uprising. Slaves, empowered by wealthy Etruscan elites, gained political power. Chaos followed. Rome stepped in to restore order, and instead destroyed the city completely. Volsinii was rebuilt as a Roman town. The Etruscan identity was erased. Number 5. Assimilation, the slow disappearance. The Etruscans didn't vanish in a single night. They were absorbed. Their gods, symbols, engineering, fashion, rituals, political ideas, all swallowed by Rome. Their language survived a little longer in religious ceremonies, then faded. By the time the Roman Empire reached its height, the Etruscans were no longer a people, just a memory, just a whisper beneath Rome's foundation stones. But this isn't where the story ends, because the Etruscans left a legacy far bigger than historians once believed. The Etruscans may have fallen, but their fingerprints are everywhere. In Rome, in Europe, and in our modern world. This is where the story becomes almost unbelievable, because the empire that history nearly erased has shaped our lives more than we realize. 1. Rome's identity was built on Etruscan foundations. Let's be clear. Rome didn't just conquer the Etruscans. Rome became the Etruscans. Take almost anything legendary about Rome, and you find Etruscan roots beneath it. The Roman arch Etruscan engineering. Gladiator games Etruscan funeral rituals. The purple royal robe Etruscan kings. The fasces symbol, bundle of rods, symbol of authority, Etruscan. Chariot racing in the Circus Maximus Etruscan sport. Haruspices, state priests, Etruscan religious science. Drainage systems like the Cloaca Maxima Etruscan innovation. Rome is often celebrated as Europe's greatest ancient civilization, but you could argue the Etruscans were Rome's parent civilization. Without them, there may have been no Roman Republic, no empire, no Latin tradition as we know it. 2. Women's rights. The Etruscans were centuries ahead. Etruscan society shocked both Greeks and Romans. Why? Women had status, education, and visibility. They attended banquets, owned property, appeared in public art, were named in records, inherited wealth, participated in social life. In a world dominated by male control, the Etruscans broke the rulebook. Some historians even compare them to early egalitarian societies. 3. Art that still feels alive today. Etruscan art wasn't stiff or overly formal. It was human, emotional, joyful, filled with music, dancing, and color. Their sarcophagi, showing couples reclining together, smiling for eternity, feel like snapshots of a culture that valued life, warmth, and togetherness. It is one of the reasons their tombs are so captivating. They show a world that loved beauty. 4. Engineering. Lessons Rome carried into the world. The Etruscans mastered arch construction, road building, metalworking, hydraulic engineering, city planning. These ideas didn't vanish. They spread with Roman conquest, then with European architecture, eventually shaping Western cities. If you've walked under an arch, driven on a paved road, or watched a stadium event, you've felt the Etruscan legacy. 5. Language, a lost code that still echoes. Even though we cannot fully translate the Etruscan language, it left traces in Roman religious vocabulary, local place names, inscriptions across Tuscany, and modern linguists are still piecing it together. Every discovered fragment is like a whisper from a forgotten empire. 6. Mystery, the reason they fascinate us today. People love the Etruscans not just because they shape Rome, but because they remain enigmatic. A civilization with advanced technology, rich culture, huge influence, but a partially unreadable language. mysterious origins, and tombs filled with clues. They are the ancient European equivalent of the Maya, the Indus Valley, or the Minoans, a puzzle that keeps historians curious and viewers hooked. So what happened to the Etruscans? They didn't vanish in a cloud of smoke. They didn't crumble overnight. They weren't destroyed beyond memory. Instead, their ideas slipped quietly into Roman culture. Their cities became Roman towns. Their symbols became Roman power, and their legacy blended into the foundations of Europe itself. A forgotten empire that never truly disappeared. Every time we admire Rome, we are admiring the Etruscans. Every time we walk through an arch, we walk through their invention. Every time we study Rome's greatness, we study their gift. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest mystery of the Etruscans is how a civilization so influential became so forgotten. If you enjoyed this journey into a hidden corner of history, hit that like button, drop a comment telling me what country you're watching from, and subscribe to Dude Historian for more stories the world was never taught. Because history isn't just what we remember, it's also what we forgot.